Hello everyone, welcome to the Geek Rant. I am joined today by a very lovely special guest. She is a New York Times bestseller, author of over several Star Trek, World of Warcraft, Assassin's Creed, and StarCraft books, but we all know her as one of the authors from the Fate of the Jedi series. I present to you the wonderful Christie Golden.
Hey, how is everybody?
Everybody's great. I mean, it's just me right now, but we're referring to my subscribers and listeners because we all do this together, kind of.
Oh, great.
But yes, so this story that we're going to be talking about today is, of course, Dark Disciple. This story takes place during the Clone Wars TV series, or where it would have picked up before its cancellation. How much inspiration was drawn from the unused scripts, and how much came from your own ideas?
That's always an interesting question, because you want to initially be faithful to the source material. There's a distinction between doing an original novel and doing a novelization, which this was. I had 8 episodes, so I had quite a lot of material to work with. So I think my major job was to really get to know the characters and the situation, and steep myself in that. To that end, I watched every episode of the Clone Wars, and I also watched several more than once, so that I could fill in the blanks and do some extra scenes, or maybe take something that was just one line and make it the focal point of a major turning point. So hopefully my job was to make this feel like you are submerged in an episode of the Clone Wars, and you can't tell where the script is and where my work is.
I actually did feel that. When reading that, I felt that it did feel very much in the vein of the Clone Wars series, and I think you did a very good job of keeping that tone there, for sure.
Thank you.
In terms of, I definitely saw your research for Asajj Ventress in terms of Clone Wars series, because that is her show. Quinlan Vos actually comes a lot from what is now Legends canon, and I was wondering if you had read any of his Dark Horse comics, or if you got any insights from the story group about where he was previously, or any specific notes about him from the story group.
I think I can't speak for how others approach this, but for me, since we are kind of starting over with what is canon and what is not, I always want to go straight to the source material and utilize that. And I have to tell you that a lot of those developments that you cite of the EU Quinlan Vos that people have gotten to know, that was in the episodes themselves. So it was not something that I had to go out and find and bring in. It was something that the writing staff had already decided to incorporate into the character of Quinlan Vos. A lot of us, of course, not having seen the episodes, read the episodes, we only had that one episode with him and one mention of him in another episode. So there was a little bit of who is this guy as envisioned by the Clone Wars. And initial response seems to be people are really happy to see that he has gotten some of that, if not the entire story, beat by beat, point by point, event by event, but at least the feel of who he was, a deeper, richer character. I think they're very excited to see that in the book.
Yeah, that I think was actually captured very well. I think the spirit of Quinlan Vos, at least as he was previously, was captured. Because I know a lot of people had criticisms of how he was in the Clone Wars. He was a little bit too goofy and all that kind of stuff. But I always felt that he was of two worlds. He was, definitely a fun-loving guy, but then also he had this darkness about him, which was always present. And I actually liked in the beginning of the book, you mentioned how he kind of comebacks to the temple. And for me, because I'm a big Harry Potter fan, it kind of felt the same way as coming back into Hogwarts, where that's where your family is. And is that something you were trying to put in specifically, or is that something from the script?
No, I wanted to think about what my challenge was. Since I did only decide to focus on the 8 canon scripts in the one episode, was to really just try and pay attention to the clues that were there, if not exactly written into the script. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Just a throwaway description. I was like, well, what would make him feel that way? What would somebody who was so young, not just taken at age 2 or something, but who was almost physically born in the temple, raised in it, how would that be? How would the Jedis be? Because people need connection. We do need attachments of some sort. So this is where they would find it. This is where they would find that nourishment, is from their brothers and sisters in the temple. And especially for Quinlan, who did work alone. To come back to that is like coming home. It is like going to the well to replenish himself.
And I think that was a very, very nice detail that you touched upon, because I think that is very true for all Jedi, is that they don't have any families. Their families, they're usually taken away very, very young, and their family becomes this Jedi Order, this, these monks and superpowered, people, but they are their family because that's all they know their whole entire lives.
And not necessarily one or two people. Quinlan does have a couple of specific friends whom I mentioned, of course, Ben Kenobi, and the character that I created for him to be kind of a sidekick. But he loves all of them. There's a scene where he goes in and he doesn't even know the Padawans, but he's happy to see them, and he feels a connection with them.
Yeah, it was when he was eating in the cafeteria, he was like, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, he loves it. Yeah. He does know his duty. He knows that he has to, do the mission, but he does still have, joy and just being with, his brothers and sisters. So I thought that was a very good touch, and I think he did that very, very well. When doing research for Asajj of Interest, what aspects of her drew you the most? She
is so rich, and she was given such a loving attention in the series, so fully developed. For me, when I do media tie-in works, I have an ear. I have this ability, and I've just had it ever since I was a kid. I can do accents, I can imitate, and I just hear how a character would say something, and the inflection and the intonation and the word choices that they make. So it was wonderful to have so much to draw on, and the voice actress for her is just magnificent.
She's good.
Oh, yeah. So it was really easy for me to just listen and see how she would, here's a situation that's being thrown at Ventress. How would she react? What would she say? And when you steep yourself into something like that, you can really almost feel like you're in the driver's seat of the person, of the character. You kind of become the character, and you feel all the expressions and the body language and things like that. So being able to have that to draw on really helped me, I hope, just nail her perfectly.
Yeah, and she is a very complex character. Yes, she started off as a Sith acolyte, but she actually initially her very, very start was with a Jedi Master, Kai Derek. So she's been through both. She's been through both light and dark, and I feel like that complexity was definitely shown, and she actually probably was the best mentor or partner for Quinlan to have for the what he goes through in this novel as well.
Yeah, they it's a lot of people were like, these two characters paired up. And when I got a chance to sit down with the scripts, and I thought it was a good idea from the very beginning, even with the little I'd seen of Voss, and to actually see them, have this story go, and then to have the honor of taking 2 or 3 lines and making an entire scene. Was really, really a lot of fun, and they had such great chemistry, and they played off of each other well. And they were, it's a tragic story, but they're good for each other too. They brought something into this dynamic. Each of them brought something that the other needed.
Yeah, it's very true. They definitely had some common ground, and I actually thought the pairing was actually very good. It was coming from the EU Legend stuff, because Quinlan does have interactions with Dooku in that story, and so did Asajj. So I thought, oh, cool, they have a through line. They both have Dooku as a through line, which still happens within this book, because that's their mission. But I think that was done really well, and I felt like their common ground really brought them closer together, and their two differing personalities still complemented each other very well.
Exactly. I'd like to sit down and have a drink with them.
Yeah, they're really cool people. Yeah, especially Quinlan. I think Quinlan would be the coolest guy to hang out with, just to be like, hey, what's going on? I think he's a cool guy. He would definitely be the life of the party for sure. Yeah. You had a very well-known villain in your story, Count Dooku. Did you draw any inspiration from the late Christopher Lee's performance?
Oh, isn't that just the saddest thing?
Yeah, but it's great, because the thing about certain people's deaths, especially when they had a fulfilling life, I feel like at that point it can be celebrated rather than a mourning, because he had a full career that he left behind.
He had not just a full career, but a full life as a human being, as a man, as a person. And we're so lucky because we have all of his film work still. We can revisit that anytime we want. And he's the master of the elegant villain. You know, the very sophisticated, intelligent, yet very evil. And he plays that so beautifully. He brings such a presence to it. And again, aren't I lucky? I can listen to his voice and watch his performances and get that. And there's actually one scene. I don't know if you're going into spoilers here, but
not specific,
so I won't.
but like in general.
But there is one scene where it was something that I interjected into the storyline, and I was like, I could see him doing this, and that's why it came to mind that he would do this, that he would go that far. He would go there. And just the absolute cruelty and twisting of the knife, just with this elegant, nasty manipulation mastery, was so much fun. And I remember I got off of that scene and I went on Facebook and I said, wow, Dooku's really, really bad person.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah. And I think you captured that perfectly, especially the elegance in his character, because he is a count from Sereno, Serrano. And yeah, that definitely comes through. But like you said, he is an evil person, like really, really evil to the core, and that's what happens when you're a Sith and you just steep yourself in the dark side. But what I was also surprised about is how the Jedi reacted to Dooku, particularly Mace Windu. I actually have my own personal theories about Mace and how the war has affected him personally, and I was surprised how much your characterization of him aligned with my own thoughts. Do you believe Mace was straying a bit from the light, or I don't know, or the Jedi in general?
I think right from the beginning, there are misgivings about this path. But it works for me because it isn't black and white. It's like, really, seriously, here's the good choice. How many billions of innocent lives could be saved by this elimination of the one? It's a compelling argument, but it's one of those classics, does the end justify the means? And what will the end do to those who execute the end, who deliver that blow, who choose that path? What does that do to you? And these are stories that story ideas that I love to wrestle with. I love the nuances of the darkness, and is it dark or is it not dark? And how do you tell? So yeah, there was a lot of that about the Jedi Order going to this place and their rationalization of it. And I won't give away too much, but by the end, I think it's pretty clear what the consensus is on that.
Right, and there was an episode in the Clone Wars, I think it was the first season, where Ahsoka and Anakin find this small village, and the gentleman, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was an alien, and he was like, well, I don't care for the Jedi or the Sith or the Separatists or the Republic. They're both, to him, evil because they're fighting. He was very much like a pacifist. He didn't want anything to do with war at all. And yeah, that's kind of what the original Jedi way was. They're like, even Mace says it in episode 2. Like, I like how he goes from that saying like, we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, to in episode 3 wanting to kill Sidious almost in cold blood when he was defeated. Yeah. So I always had this thing about Mace, and I like that in this novel that was completely depicted. I'm like, yeah, the Jedi are being deteriorated by all of this war, and that's kind of the construct of what the Sith Lord wanted to do. He wanted to break down the Jedi.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's everything. Do you have any future works coming up that you wanted to talk about?
I have a few things in the pipeline, but I am unfortunately not at liberty to discuss them.
Oh no, anything Star Wars related?
I can't say yes or nay about anything.
No.
Okay. I know.
And nothing else besides like any original works you have coming up or anything?
Well, I do have something I can talk about. I have a short story coming up in the next episode of Star Wars Insider. And it is a short story, a Ventress short story, a kind of a prequel. There's a character that we meet in we don't actually meet her, but we have an incident with her off screen, a pirate named La Sirene, and she and Ventress have met before, and this is their meeting. So
Okay,
it's a fun
cool.
little story.
Yeah, I know John Jackson, he had a little short story for his... no, he did a short story for Paul Kemp's Lords of the Sith, I believe. That was in the Insider. I don't know if it was in the last Insider or one previous to it. But yeah, you guys all get the opportunity to do that, which is cool, I think. And I know you've done a lot of anthologies and things like that.
Well, what's really fun about this, and I didn't realize how far we had gone in that direction, which I think is awesome, and why don't we do it more? But it was a story written by a woman about two women with illustrations by a female artist.
That's awesome.
How cool is that? And we need more of that.
That was very similar to J.K. Rowling and her author that did the Harry Potter artwork. Yeah, it's very, very cool. There's a lot more. I know with Kathleen Kennedy at the helm of Lucasfilm, there's definitely going to be a lot more female presence in Star Wars.
Well, I'm really looking forward. Everything that I have seen and heard, And I'm on a need-to-know basis, and I don't really need to know much. So it's not like I'm sitting on anything humongoid. But I will say that everything that I'm saying about what's coming out, I am so excited for. And I am so thrilled that I am going to get to see the big screen on the screen again. And as someone who fell in love with Star Wars at 13 in the movie theaters when it first premiered, this is really just amazing, this rebirth that we are witnessing.
Yeah, it's people were not expecting this to happen, but it's coming, and here it is, and it's awesome, and we're all loving it. Thank you very much for coming out, talking to us here on the Geek Rant, and to the listeners, make sure you check out Dark Disciple, coming out next month on July 7th.
Luke's open and calm mind allowed for a more adaptable fighting style, while Anakin's reliance on talent and aggression was a bit more rigid.
No, why are you mowing your lawn right now? I'm recording a Let's Play.